They said beauty is a gift, but sometimes it can be a curse. In a small village outside Owerri lived a young woman named Ifeoma. She was as graceful as the morning sun and as striking as the hibiscus flower that bloomed by the roadside. Men admired her wherever she walked. Women whispered her name with envy. And though many young men desired her, her heart was caught between love and ambition. Stay with us as we uncover this powerful story, and if you're just tuning in, please subscribe to our channel. Chidi was the kind of man people respected, not because he had wealth, but because of his character. He was a yam farmer, broad-shouldered from carrying baskets of tubers, his hands hardened by the hoe and the soil. He wore simple clothes, often patched at the elbows, and his slippers were worn thin from the long walks between his farm and the market. But whenever he spoke, his voice carried calmness, and his eyes held honesty. Every evening, after selling his yams at the village square, Chidi would find his way to Ifeoma's family compound. He never came empty-handed. Sometimes it was roasted groundnuts wrapped in paper, other times a small calabash of palm wine. He would sit under the mango tree with her father, greeting him respectfully, before stealing glances at Ifeoma as she fetched water or fanned the firewood flames in the kitchen. "Ifeoma," he would say softly when they finally found a moment alone, "I may not have riches to offer you, but I have a heart that will never betray you. If you stand with me, I will spend my life working to make sure you never go hungry." Her lips would curve in a polite smile, but inside her heart wrestled. She admired Chidi's kindness. Yes, but when she looked at his rough palms and dusty clothes, a heaviness filled her chest. She was young, beautiful. Surely life had more to offer her than the mud walls of the farm. Her friends fueled the fire of her doubts. At the stream, while they bent over their calabashes, they teased her. "Ifeoma, so you will marry a farmer? You, the most beautiful girl in this village? Imagine yourself under the hot sun, carrying yams to the market. No, my sister, you deserve a man who will buy you fine wrappers, who will take you to the city, who will treat you like a queen." Ifeoma laughed nervously, but their words sank deep. At night she lay awake, staring at the thatched roof of her hut, imagining herself wearing lace gowns, gold earrings, and walking the streets of Abuja or Lagos with her head high. Chidi's gentle smile and promises of loyalty seemed too small compared to the glittering visions in her mind. Still, Chidi did not give up. One Sunday after church, he walked her home and said, "Ifeoma, I know people talk. I know they look down on me because I till the soil, but remember this, yam grows slowly, but when the harvest comes, it fills the barn. If you will be patient with me, I promise, our harvest will come." For a moment, her heart softened. She saw the sincerity in his eyes, the way he believed in a future with her. But just as quickly, her pride whispered, "Is this really the life you want? A hut, a farm, and nothing more?" Her parents, too, urged her to consider him. Her mother said, "Ifeoma, beauty will not cook soup. Marry a man who has character, not just money. Chidi is poor today, but tomorrow who knows what God will do." But Ifeoma only nodded quietly. Deep inside, she had already begun to dream of a different tomorrow, one where her name would not be tied to a poor farmer. And so the seeds of her choice were planted, one rooted in love and loyalty, the other in ambition and desire. The village watched silently, knowing that sooner or later, the beautiful Ifeoma would stand at a crossroads, and the path she chose would shape not only her life, but the lesson every girl in the village would remember for years to come. The rainy season had just begun when the village first heard the growl of an unfamiliar engine. Children chased after the dust as a shiny black Jeep rolled down the untarred road, its windows tinted, its rims polished like mirrors. It was unlike anything the villagers had seen before, and by the time the car stopped in front of the square, the entire community had gathered in awe. From the Jeep stepped Kunle, tall, light-skinned, dressed in a starched white kaftan and gold wristwatch that caught the sun like fire. His cologne floated into the air, strong enough to reach the women whispering from the market stalls. Kunle moved with the swagger of a man used to commanding attention. And in that moment, the quiet rhythm of the village shifted. He came on business, he said. He was visiting to inspect some land he intended to buy for a new palm oil project. But it wasn't just business that made people notice him. It was his charm. He greeted the elders with a smooth bow, slipped crisp naira notes into the hands of children, and promised the men jobs if his project succeeded. Before the sun set, the whole village was talking about him. And then his eyes fell on Ifeoma. She was returning from the stream with her friends when Kunle's gaze caught hers. Her wrapper clung to her frame, her laughter rang like a bell, and her beauty shone in a way even the city women couldn't match. Kunle smiled slowly, as if the entire trip had been worth it just to see her. The next day he made his move. He strolled into Ifeoma's family compound, his shoes clicking against the ground. He greeted her parents warmly, presenting them with gifts, a bag of imported rice, bottles of wine, and even a packet of sugar. Just small tokens, he said with a smile, to greet my new friends. Her father was cautious, but her mother's eyes widened. She had never seen gifts like these arrive so casually at their doorstep. When Kunle finally spoke to Ifeoma alone, his words dripped like honey. You're even more beautiful than the city women, he told her, leaning close. But beauty like yours doesn't belong to mud huts and yam barns. You deserve lace gowns, diamond earrings, and a house where the floor shines like glass. Come to the city with me, and I'll show you a life you've never dreamed of. Ifeoma's heart raced. For years, she had secretly longed for that life, and now here it was, being offered to her on a silver platter. But not everyone was impressed. That evening, Chidi arrived as usual, his shirt damp with sweat from the farm, his hands carrying a small basket of yams. He found Ifeoma sitting under the mango tree, her eyes distant, her mind replaying Kunle's promises. Ifeoma, Chidi said softly, I brought these for you. They are from my best harvest. She forced a smile, but her voice was cold. Thank you. Chidi sat beside her, searching her face. Something troubles you. Talk to me. She sighed. Chidi, don't you ever dream of more? Don't you want a life where you don't bend under the sun every day? Where you don't walk barefoot in the mud, carrying baskets on your head? Chidi looked down at his calloused hands. I dream, Ifeoma. But I dream of building slowly, honestly, of planting today so our children can eat tomorrow. It may not be fast, but it will last. She shook her head, her patience thinning. Others are living better today. Why must we wait for tomorrow? Before Chidi could answer, the roar of an engine filled the air. The jeep rolled past the compound, Kunle at the wheel, music blasting from the stereo. He slowed down just enough to wave at Ifeoma, flashing a smile that glittered as much as his wristwatch. Her friends who had gathered nearby squealed, Ifeoma! See how he looks at you? That's a real man, not a farmer with mud on his feet. Chidi's heart clenched, but he held his tongue. He only whispered, Don't let wealth blind you, Ifeoma. Not all that glitters is gold. She didn't reply. Her eyes followed the jeep until it disappeared down the road. That night she lay awake again, torn between two worlds. On one hand, the rough but loyal Chidi, offering steady love and sweat-earned yams. On the other, Kunle, the rich suitor, offering city lights and promises of ease. Her mother noticed her restlessness and said, My daughter, be wise. A man who brings you gifts today will bring you more tomorrow. Don't waste your beauty on poverty, her father frowned, warning. Wealth comes and goes. Character remains. Choose carefully, Ifeoma. But her heart was already tilting. The following week, Kunle invited Ifeoma to a small gathering in the next town. He arrived with his jeep, opening the door for her like she was royalty. When she stepped inside, her friends gasped with envy. As the car sped away, Ifeoma's laughter floated into the wind, sweet and careless. Behind, Chidi stood at the edge of the road, watching the dust rise. He clutched the basket of yams he had meant to deliver, his chest tight. Ifeoma, he whispered to himself, don't let your heart wander too far, or you may never find your way back. But deep inside, he already feared the truth. Kunle had entered not just the village, but Ifeoma's heart. The weeks that followed Kunle's arrival felt like a whirlwind for Ifeoma. Each time his jeep roared into the village, children chased after it like a parade, and women paused their cooking to peek from their compounds. He always came bearing gifts, imported rice, Ankara wrappers, cartons of noodles, bottles of wine. And each time his eyes sought Ifeoma, never hiding his intentions. Her friends fanned the fire with reckless glee. Ifeoma, you are lucky. Who else in this village can boast that a man from the city has chosen her? You'll be living in Abuja soon, wearing lace and gold. Ah, you've escaped poverty. The more they said it, the more her heart drifted. The yam barns, the muddy paths, the endless toil of farming. They felt smaller each day, unworthy of her beauty. Chidi noticed the change. She no longer smiled at his jokes, no longer met him at the stream, no longer ate the roasted groundnuts he brought. Instead, she wore the wrappers Kunle gifted, her head high, her laughter louder, as though to mock the life she once shared with him. One evening, Chidi came to her compound, his hands carrying a basket of fresh yams. Her mother sat outside tying firewood. She looked at him with pity. "My son," she said softly, "leave her be. Her eyes no longer see you." Chidi's chest tightened. "Mama, I love her. If only she could see what I see, that wealth fades, but love endures." Her mother shook her head. "Sometimes love alone cannot blind the greedy heart." Inside the hut, Ifeoma listened, her jaw clenched. She stepped out, her voice sharp. "Chidi, you are a good man, but I cannot spend my life waiting for a harvest that may never come. I want more, and Kunle can give me that." Chidi's eyes burned with quiet pain. "And what if he cannot? What if all he offers are lies?" She laughed bitterly. "Better to chase lies of gold than be buried in truth with dust. At least the lies sparkle." The words cut him deeper than any blade. He placed the basket of yams at her feet, turned, and walked away. Behind him, Ifeoma's friends whispered and giggled, mocking the poor farmer who had lost to a man of the city. The day of her escape came faster than anyone expected. Kunle arrived in his jeep, the sun glinting off the polished bonnet. The whole village gathered to watch. Ifeoma emerged from her hut, her hair braided neatly, her wrapper tied with precision. She carried only a small bag, but her pride weighed more than luggage ever could. Her father stood at the doorway, his face dark with disappointment. "Ifeoma, remember my words. This road you're choosing may glitter now, but it is thorny. Do not forget that home is always here, though you may return with regret." She avoided his gaze, her lips tight. Her mother fussed, hiding her worry behind excitement. "Go, my daughter. Shine in the city. Show them that beauty can climb higher than mud walls." The neighbors whispered loudly as she climbed into the jeep. "She has left the farmer for the rich man. Ehya, poor Chidi. But can we blame her? Who wants to suffer when riches are calling?" Inside the jeep, Kunle grinned, his gold wristwatch catching the sun. "You've made the right choice, my queen. From today, your life will never be the same." As the engine roared to life, Ifeoma allowed herself one last glance at the village road. There, standing by the mango tree, was Chidi. His shirt was damp with sweat, his hands empty, but his eyes carried a pain that pierced her pride. For a moment, her heart faltered. She almost called his name. But then the jeep sped forward, the dust rising, and the village, along with Chidi, disappeared behind her. The city dazzled her beyond imagination. Tall buildings stretched into the sky, their glass walls glittering under the sun. Streets bustled with cars, markets overflowed with voices, and shops brimmed with goods she had only dreamed of. Kunle took her to a large apartment, the tiles shining, the curtains silk. He handed her a new phone, perfumes, dresses that hugged her curves. Ifeoma laughed with delight. "So this is the life of the city." Kunle pulled her close, his voice smooth. "This is only the beginning, my queen. Stick with me, and you'll never know suffering again." She believed him. At night, she posted photos of herself in fine clothes, leaning against Kunle's jeep, sipping wine from crystal glasses. She sent them to her friends in the village, who gasped and whispered. Letters traveled back, stories spread. Ifeoma has made it. She is living like a queen. But what the letters didn't tell was how her mind sometimes drifted. Alone in the quiet, she thought of Chidi, of his rough hands, his steady eyes, his promises of slow but lasting love. She shook her head quickly, drowning the memories in wine and laughter. Kunle's world was louder, brighter, faster, and for now she chose to dance in it, blind to the cracks already forming beneath the glitter. Back in the village, Chidi worked harder than ever. From dawn till dusk, he tilled his farm, planting yam seedlings with a heart both heavy and determined. The gossip stung him, the laughter of his peers cut deep, but he endured. Each tuber he pulled from the earth, each barn he filled, became his silent reply to the world. I will rise, not with gold, but with sweat. But when he walked past the mango tree each evening, he could still see her in his mind. Ifeoma, leaving in that jeep, her head high, her laughter mocking his love. And though he told himself to forget, his heart whispered otherwise. Ifeoma thought she had found the life she always dreamed of. Glittering, fast and sweet. But the city has a way of stripping gold from lies. And soon the cracks in Conley's world would show, teaching her a lesson she would never forget. At first, Abuja felt like a dream to Ifeoma. Every morning, sunlight spilled through the wide glass windows of Kunle's apartment, bouncing off polished floors and silk curtains. She wore dresses she had only seen on television, dined in restaurants where the waiters bowed and called her Madam, and rode in Kunle's Jeep while people on the roadside stared in envy. Her phone buzzed with messages from old friends in the village. Ifeoma, send us pictures. You're living like a queen. She laughed as she posed in front of malls by swimming pools, holding designer handbags. To them, she was proof that beauty could unlock the gates of wealth. But slowly the shine began to dull. Kunle, who once showered her with attention, started returning home late. His voice, once sweet, grew sharp. Some nights he came back smelling of alcohol, tossing his car keys onto the table with a frown. When Ifeoma asked, Kunle, where have you been? He waved her off. Don't nag me. You think this money makes itself? At first, she ignored the warning signs. He's just stressed, she told herself, adjusting her new gold earrings. Big men have big problems. But the cracks widened. One afternoon, Ifeoma went to the wardrobe to admire the clothes Kunle had bought her. Tucked between silk gowns was a paper envelope filled with bills. Electricity, rent, credit card debts. The numbers made her chest tighten. When she confronted him that evening, he snatched the papers from her hands. Why are you going through my things? Don't ever touch what you don't understand. His voice was thunder. For the first time, Ifeoma flinched under his gaze. The neighbors whispered too. Women in the apartment complex smirked when she walked past. One muttered loudly, That's the new one. Let's see how long she lasts. Ifeoma pretended not to hear, but the words cut. Days turned into weeks. The gifts stopped. The expensive dinners dwindled into roadside takeaways. One night when she asked if he still loved her, Kunle laughed bitterly. Love? Love doesn't pay bills. You're here because you're beautiful. Don't fool yourself. Her chest burned, but she swallowed her tears. Pride kept her from sending word to the village. She couldn't let them know her queen's life was crumbling. Still, at night, when she lay alone on the wide bed, memories of Chidi returned. His steady eyes, his calm voice, his promise. Yam grows slowly, but when the harvest comes, it fills the barn. She pressed her face into the pillow, whispering to herself, Stop thinking of him. He's poor. He could never give you this life. But deep inside she knew. The glittering life she had chosen was already cracking. The breaking point came on a stormy evening. The rain hammered the city, lightning splitting the sky. Kunle stumbled in past midnight, his shirt half unbuttoned, his breath heavy with alcohol and perfume that wasn't hers. Kunle, where have you been? Ifeoma demanded, her voice trembling. He slammed a bottle of whiskey onto the table. Who are you to question me? You live under my roof, eat my food, wear my clothes. Know your place. Her eyes widened in shock. Your place? Is that all I am to you? His face twisted. Yes, a placeholder. When you stop being beautiful, I'll find another. Don't push me, Ifeoma. Her heart shattered. She stood frozen, tears streaming silently as he collapsed onto the couch and snored, leaving her alone with her regret. The next morning she looked into the mirror. The girl staring back wasn't the proud queen she had imagined. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her smile was gone, and her heart felt emptier than the expensive wardrobe behind her. For the first time since she left, she admitted to herself she had traded true love for lies. But it was too late, or so she thought. Meanwhile, back in the village, Chidi's name was rising. He had joined a farming cooperative, pooled resources with other young men, and begun modernizing his farm. New tools, better seedlings, larger harvests. At the market, traders now sought him out. His barns filled, his pockets swelled. Quietly, steadily, he was becoming a man of means. The villagers whispered, "Chidi is no longer the poor farmer. Look how far hard work has carried him." And in hushed tones they added, "If only Ifeoma had waited." But Ifeoma didn't know. All she knew was the cold silence of Kunle's apartment, the weight of his debts, and the ache of her own choices. The warning signs had been there all along. The unpaid bills, the late nights, the angry phone calls Kunle always silenced. But Ifeoma had chosen to ignore them, clinging to the hope that things would get better. After all, hadn't he promised her a life of endless comfort? The truth struck one hot afternoon like a thunderclap. Ifeoma was sitting on the balcony, sipping juice and trying to hide the weariness that had settled in her heart, when a loud bang shook the apartment door. "Open up!" a man's voice boomed. Another fist pounded against the wood. "This is your final warning, Kunle. Pay what you owe." Startled, Ifeoma rushed to the door. Before she could ask who it was, 3 men pushed their way inside, their eyes blazing with fury. Behind them stood uniformed police officers. Kunle stumbled out of the bedroom, his shirt wrinkled, his face pale. "Gentlemen, please, let's talk." "Talk?" one of the men barked, shoving him against the wall. "You've been talking for months while eating money that isn't yours. Today we're done talking." The officers began reading out a list of charges: unpaid debts, fraudulent business deals, bounced checks. Ifeoma's jaw dropped as the words rained down like stones. "What is this, Kunle?" she cried, her voice trembling. "Tell them they're lying." But Kunle didn't answer. His silence told her everything. The men ransacked the apartment. They seized the television, the sound system, even the fine rug Ifeoma loved. The jeep that had once dazzled the village was towed away in front of gawking neighbors. By the time they were done, the apartment looked bare, stripped of its false glamour. Ifeoma sat on the floor, her hands clutching her head, tears streaming. "Kunle, what is happening? You told me you were successful." Kunle's voice cracked with anger and shame. "I borrowed to impress you, Ifeoma, to show you the life you wanted. I never had the wealth you dreamed of. It was all loans and lies." Her heart stopped. "Lies? You mean all of this," she gestured at the empty room, "was never real?" He slumped into a chair, burying his face in his hands. "I wanted you so badly that I built a palace of sand, and now the waves have taken it." The neighbors who had once envied her gathered outside, whispering and laughing. Women pointed at her from balconies, smirking. "See her fine clothes." "Where are they now?" one mocked. "Beauty cannot pay debt." Humiliation seared Ifeoma's soul. She pulled her wrapper tightly around her, wishing she could vanish. The following day, matters grew worse. Kunle disappeared. He left before dawn, slipping away without a word. When Ifeoma woke, his wardrobe was empty, his shoes gone, his phone switched off. He had abandoned her in the wreckage of his lies. She searched frantically, asking neighbors, calling numbers. But no one knew where he had gone. Some said he fled to Lagos to hide from creditors. Others claimed he had left the country entirely. All Ifeoma knew was that she had been left with nothing but shame. For days she wandered the city streets, her once proud steps now slow and heavy. The same dresses she had worn with pride now mocked her, reminders of a life that crumbled like dust. She tried to call old friends, but they avoided her, unwilling to be tainted by her disgrace. Hungry, broke, and broken, she sat one evening at a roadside stall, staring at the smoke rising from suya meat. Children ran past, laughing. Women bargained loudly. The city that once dazzled her now pressed against her like a weight she could no longer bear. Her thoughts returned again and again to the village, to the mango tree, to Chidi. She saw his steady eyes in her mind, heard his gentle voice promising a slow but lasting harvest. Regret gripped her heart like a vice. Tears blurred her vision as she whispered, "I left love for lies. I traded gold of the heart for glitter of the eye. What have I done?" That night she packed the few clothes she still had into a small bag. She had no money for transport, but she begged her way onto a bus heading east. The passengers eyed her curiously, some recognizing her from the photos that once circled the village. Photos of a queen in the city. Now she was nothing but a shadow of that pride. The bus rattled down the long road back to the village. Each bump in the road shook another layer of her pride away. She leaned her head against the window and wept quietly, knowing the shame that awaited her. Back in the village, the news had already spread. "Ifeoma is coming back," the people whispered. "She left the farmer for the city man, but see how the city has chewed her and spat her out." Children gathered at the roadside as the bus pulled in. Women peeked from behind their wrappers. Men shook their heads knowingly. And there, standing by the same mango tree where he had once watched her leave, was Chidi. But Chidi was not the same man she had abandoned. His frame was broader, his clothes finer. Behind him stood workers loading yam tubers into a shiny truck marked with his farm's new cooperative logo. His barns were full. His name, once spoken with pity, was now spoken with respect. Ifeoma stepped down from the bus, her wrapper faded, her eyes swollen. She clutched her bag tightly, her heart pounding. The villagers' whispers filled her ears. "The queen has returned in rags." She dared to meet Chidi's eyes. He looked at her, not with malice, but with a sadness that cut deeper than hatred. In that moment she understood. She had lost more than wealth. She had lost the one man who had truly loved her. She had traded loyalty for lies, true love for false riches. And now, stripped of everything, Ifeoma returned home to find Chidi transformed. No longer the poor farmer she had mocked, but the man she could never have again. The sun hung low over the village as Ifeoma stood frozen at the bus stop, her bag clutched tightly against her chest. Dust swirled around her feet while whispers rippled through the crowd. "That's her," someone muttered, "the one who left the farmer. Eh ya, see how the city returned her." Ifeoma's cheeks burned, but she forced herself to walk forward. Each step felt heavier than the last, as though the shame clung to her ankles like iron chains. By the mango tree stood Chidi. His presence was no longer that of the humble, dusty farmer she had once mocked. His shirt was clean and pressed, his sandals new. Behind him, workers loaded tubers into a shining truck painted with the name Chidi Agro Co-op. He gave instructions calmly, his voice firm, and the men obeyed with respect. He had become someone new, someone she barely recognized. Their eyes met. Ifeoma's heart tightened. She saw no hatred there, only the quiet distance of a man who had moved on. She approached slowly, her voice trembling. "Chidi." He looked at her, his face unreadable. "Ifeoma, you've returned." Her lips quivered. "Yes, I had nowhere else to go." The villagers, curious and eager for drama, edged closer. Some shook their heads. Others whispered with pity. A few laughed quietly, relishing the sight of the once proud beauty brought low. Chidi turned to his workers. "Load faster. The market closes soon." Then he looked back at her. "What do you want, Ifeoma?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Forgiveness. A chance. Even if it is just to start again as friends." The words hung in the air. For a long moment, silence reigned. Then Chidi spoke, his voice steady but heavy. "I gave you my heart once, Ifeoma. I told you our love would be like yam, slow to grow but filling when the harvest came. You mocked me. You chose glitter over grit, and now you see where it led her tears spilled. I was foolish. I was blind. I thought wealth was the answer, but I see now it was love I truly needed." Chidi sighed deeply, looking away toward the horizon where the sun painted the sky orange. "Love cannot live in a heart that abandoned it. My harvest came, but not for you. Another stood with me when I was weak. She is my wife now, and together we reap what we sowed in patience." The words hit her harder than Kunli's abandonment. She gasped softly, her hand covering her mouth. Behind her, the villagers whispered louder. He has married another. Ifeoma has truly lost everything. Her knees wobbled. She sank slowly to the ground, her tears falling into the dust. The same dust she once believed was beneath her now cradled her shame. Chidi looked at her one last time, his voice low. Ifeoma, you taught this village a lesson. Beauty fades, wealth deceives, but loyalty endures. Remember that, and let it guide the rest of your days. With that, he turned and climbed into his truck. The engine roared to life, and the vehicle rolled away, leaving Ifeoma in the swirl of dust. She sat there, her shoulders shaking, as the villagers dispersed. Some pitied her, others mocked, but all understood the lesson written in her story. That night, Ifeoma returned to her father's hut. He said nothing when she arrived, only sighed deeply and shook his head. Her mother brought her a bowl of food, but her eyes were heavy with disappointment. Days passed. Ifeoma worked quietly, helping with chores, fetching water, tending to the goats. But wherever she went, whispers followed. At the stream, women said, "That is the girl who traded gold of the heart for glitter of the eye." At the market, traders muttered, "Her story is the warning for our daughters." And slowly, painfully, she accepted it. Her beauty, once her pride, now brought only sighs and pity. The suitors who once pursued her no longer came. Even her friends who had once urged her toward Kunle now kept their distance, ashamed of the part they had played. But Ifeoma no longer sought their approval. She had tasted the sweetness of glitter and the bitterness of its lies. Now she sought only peace. Sometimes in the quiet of night, she remembered Chidi's steady eyes and the life she could have had. She imagined herself as the woman standing by his side, sharing in his harvest, respected and secure. And each time, her chest tightened with regret. But there was no going back. The past was gone, and she would carry its lesson forever. They said love is patient, love is kind, but Ifeoma learned the hard way that love cannot survive where greed lives. She left Chidi, the poor farmer, for Kunle, the rich suitor. But wealth built on lies crumbled like dust, while loyalty built on patience grew into a harvest. Her story became the village warning: never trade true love for glittering lies. Because beauty fades, wealth shifts, but character endures forever. And so, my friend, wealth may build houses, but it is character that builds homes. Every choice we make is a seed we plant. Ifeoma planted greed, and she reaped sorrow. Chidi planted love and patience, and his harvest became joy. Choose carefully, for the harvest always comes, and it will be what you sowed. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more life-changing tales. She left the poor farmer for a rich suitor, but life taught her a lesson she would never forget.